Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another watch list. Basically, think of this as a monthly TV guide for me to let you know what and when TV shows that I'm interested in and maybe you're interested in are coming out. Like always, in the description down below, I will include links to any trailers that might be available to anything that I bring up during this watch list. First up, on March 1st, which will be today when this video goes up, we have a new series on NBC called Debris. Essentially, there's this type of alloy or something, some kind of substance is falling from the sky and landing on Earth. But this debris or alloy or whatever it is has special properties. Like we see one instance in the trailer where this lady working at a hotel picks it up and ends up phasing through 14 floors of a hotel and falling to her death. So what this necessarily is all about, we don't know, but it seems like this stuff has the ability to cause like almost like some space. It messes with space and time, it seems like a little bit. At least like it seems like there's no gravity when it comes to this situation. We don't really know the ins and outs of it. Just from what we see in the trailer, it looks like it causes special phenomena, and that basically this particular agent from a particular government agency that investigates this type of stuff is trying to make sure that it doesn't fall in the wrong hands. Because what this is fully capable of, we don't know. We do see that it's in small chunks, but there are certain points in the trailers that showcase there are larger chunks out and about. And you know what the full scale of what these are about, why they're landing on Earth now, like what's causing all this, where they came from in the first place. It'd be interesting to dive into the show to kind of find out, you know, more about it. It seems really interesting. Almost like maybe there's some larger play as to why it is falling on Earth. Like I said, it seems really interesting. Seems very similar to obviously another NBC show. Manifest kind of got that mystery element of kind of what's going on to it, you know, a little Lost vibe to it. So I'm interested to check the show out to kind of, you know, get a better understanding of everything that's going down. On March 2nd on the CW, we have the season 7 premiere of The Flash, which I'm really excited for. Obviously picking up after where season 6 left off, obviously season 6 having gotten cut short because of the pandemic. Obviously Barry's in the process of losing his speed and he has to go up against Ava, aka Mirror Master, and like I said, struggling with the fact that he's losing his speed. Plus there's also the whole situation of saving Iris, who is stuck in the Mirrorverse. I'm really interested to kind of see how that all plays out. Interestingly enough, like I brought up, the pandemic caused the show to kind of be cut short, at least season 6 to be cut short. So obviously the first couple episodes are mainly about dealing with the whole Ava and losing his speed situation, even trying to build an artificial speed force. So it's definitely going to be interesting because most of the trailers and stuff showcase the early parts of the season finishing up that storyline. Now what the rest of season 7 is going to look like is going to be really interesting as well. But I'm very excited to have the flashback. I'm excited to see what this season has in store for us, how Barry deals with the whole, you know, losing his speed. I mean, obviously we saw elements of it last season, but it's coming down to the wire of just like how little of his power he has left. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all ultimately ends up playing out. On March 5th on Sci-Fi, we had the return of Wynonna Earp season 4, sadly returning for its final episodes, in particular its final 6 episodes. This is sad news indeed. You know, as like, you know, obviously they didn't go into the, well, at least we as the audience weren't prepared going into this knowing that this was going to be the final season. Sadly, it seems like this decision was kind of made afterwards. I am kind of bummed about this, but I'm still at the same time excited to see how the final episodes, the final, you know, the rest of the season ends up playing out. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch the first half of the season because obviously it's been a couple months. So, but from what I remember last time, things weren't necessarily good on any front because Wynonna kind of crossed the line in the first half of the season, doing something that normally wouldn't be necessarily a Wynonna move. It's just, there's just I think that's going to cause a lot of issues amongst, in particular, a lot of issues between her and Doc about how Wynonna's kind of handled certain things recently. So it's definitely going to be interesting, also kind of piecing everything together after, you know, the time skip and everything. So it's going to be interesting. I'm saying all this having not seen the trailer for the final episodes. I don't want to. I'm just kind of want to go into this knowing as little as possible. I will also note that I remember reading something that was suggesting that they might try and see if they could get Wynonna Earp on maybe like another you know, channel or whatever to kind of keep the show going. But for right now, this seems like this might be the end, at the very least on Sci-Fi. Like I said, we don't know what the future holds, but like I said, it's sad news, but I'm still interested to ultimately see how they end up wrapping everything up. On March 7th on Epix, we have the return of Pennyworth. Obviously, Pennyworth went on a couple month hiatus, but now we have Pennyworth come back. I haven't seen the preview for this next upcoming episode, but where things left off, it was kind of interesting. Obviously, we got a better look at what Harwood's up to and what he's kind of got planned, but we also got introduced to a new character, a familiar face and name, well, rather familiar name, getting introduced to in Pennyworth, and how this particular character's joining of this series, like what kind of effect it has on everything that's going on right now. So I'm really glad to have Pennyworth back. I'm really curious to see where the rest of the season's going. Once again, I didn't watch the preview, so I don't even know what to fully expect from this upcoming episode, but still, it's going to be interesting to see what the back half of this season is going to look like. Also on March 7th on NBC, we have season 4 premiere of Good Girls. Very excited to have Good Girls back. I actually don't even know what to expect for this. There might be a trailer out at the time of me recording this. I wouldn't know. I haven't looked for it, but I'm kind of fine with that. It's like, I'm okay just going into Good Girls not knowing anything. Like a lot of shows, it's season 3 of Good Girls was cut short. I don't remember everything that went down because it has been a little while, but I want to say, at least on the Beth front, I know there were things like obviously her and Rio continuing to kind of like finding a new place to kind of launder the money through. Other than that, I want to say Ruby and Stan were in a better place, but I don't remember where everything stood with Anne, you know. So regardless, like I said, I'm ready for the drama and shenanigans that you definitely know you're going to get when it comes to Good Girls. So I'm excited to see what this 4th season has in store for us. On March 10th on Netflix, we have this new series called Dealer. It seems like an interesting series where basically it seems like these two people were hired by like a label to, I think, film everything revolving around this guy that's kind of a rapper, but things kind of turned deadly in this job because obviously being a part of his world, he's got a lot of like ties to his past and some stuff that he's done. I think he's trying to reinvent himself, but still being a part of like that crime life of like, I think, drugs and just everything, like every aspect of his life. Just from what we see from the trailer, obviously that's probably not giving the full context of everything, but it seemed really interesting, especially the way they're going about it, because everything is kind of almost like, it's almost through the lens of kind of like that found footage type of feel, and it seems kind of like, it's kind of a weird comparison to make. It kind of reminds me in certain aspects kind of like how Hardcore Henry was done. It's going to be interesting like how they go about like filming the show, like the way the camera angles kind of switch, whether it's just like the camera kind of getting handed off to other people. It seemed like a really interesting show and perspective to have on this particular storyline, but I'm interested to get the full context of the entire story. Like I said, it seemed interesting. So on March 19th on Disney Plus, we have the series premiere of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Really excited by this. It's probably one of the things I'm looking forward to the most this month. Obviously we still are in the dark with a lot of the story, but obviously we're picking up with Sam and Bucky after Steve passed on the shield to Falcon, and obviously the responsibilities of what that shield means and what it means to be Captain America. Like I said, in the context of story-wise, the trailers haven't given us a lot, but obviously we're definitely getting a lot of like Winter Soldier / Civil War vibes and kind of that spy thriller action storyline it seems like we're getting, but just from what we've seen, it looks awesome. Obviously the storyline that a lot of people kind of getting that feel from what we see from the trailer and what's come out is obviously the whole angle of U.S. agent, someone else being the government making their own Captain America because they don't want Sam or Bucky to be Captain America. It's not Steve's job to pass on the mantle. We'll be the ones to do it. Like how they necessarily handle that is going to be really interesting. Obviously a big part of this too is Zemo continuing his plans from Civil War. It's like, my work isn't done. He's got to bring an end to, you know, superheroes because he thinks they do more harm than good. So all those storyline elements, it's definitely going to be interesting to see, you know, what the show does, you know, because not only just, you know, for the show itself, but also what this means going forward for Sam and Bucky in the greater schemes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know? On March 25th on Amazon Prime Video, we have the new animated series Invincible. Very excited by this. It seems like a really interesting superhero story, obviously based on a comic book of the same name by Robert Kirkman, same person who did The Walking Dead. But I mean, it seems like a really interesting superhero series. It seems kind of dark and bloody, and obviously, just from the trailers alone, it seemed like it's a very straight up like coming of age, like, oh, coming into being the superhero that you are type of story. But it does seem like and I've heard people talk about this, and I've never read the comic, so I don't know what it is, but it does seem like the trailer is hinting to a twist in the plot, and it seems like whatever it is, it revolves around the main character's dad. Now, what that necessarily entails, we'll ultimately have to wait and see. From what I remember hearing, I could be mistaken on this, but I believe the first 3 episodes are going to be released on March 25th, and then after that, subsequent weeks will be one a week episodes, much like they did with The Boys. So if I'm not mistaken, I think that's still the deal. At least that's what I heard. But yeah, I'm really excited to check the show out. Like I said, just from what we see, it seems kind of like very probably like a mix between, well, it very much seems, and since I brought it up, it does seem very much like The Boys, where we're going to get a lot of like blood and such. It seems like a violent, bloody, interesting take on, like, I think a superhero story, much like The Boys is. So you know, not in the same vein, but in a different light. But I'm really interested to dive into the story. This is going to be my first time experiences this story, because sadly I have not read the comic book, even though I've heard nothing but great things. So I'm interested to see what the series is all about. And finally, on March 28th on Showtime, we have season 2 of City on a Hill. I'll go ahead and let you know ahead of time. At the time of me recording this, which is like February 24th, I have not seen season 1 of City on a Hill. It's a show I was interested in checking out. I just haven't. But with season 2 around the corner, I figured I might as well take the time to watch season 1. But I watched the trailer for season 1. I haven't watched it for season 2, obviously to avoid spoilers. But from what I can tell, it seems like basically the story takes place in the 90s, and it's about an FBI agent who crosses the line a little bit, can get a little dirty. Seems like does some drugs, kind of skims some money off here and there. But it also seems like he kind of butts heads with a lawyer who kind of wants to, whether he's a lawyer or like an ADA, whatever his situation is, Aldous Hodge's character, which I should also note is Aldous Hodge and Kevin Bacon. That's dope. But it seems like they kind of butt heads, but it's also a thing of like, well, there's a particular case of robberies they're dealing with. Once again, this is just based on the first season. I'm assuming like it might be one of those stories where they're going to be the main characters, and we see their stories develop over the course of different cases per season, because it seemed like maybe the entire first season was about that particular case of robberies and kind of getting like the criminal side of things in their story. Maybe get a similar thing in season 2. Once again, I haven't even touched or even looked at the season 2 trailer. I caught bits and pieces, but nothing that really gave any hints to what the story is. So I'm really interested in checking the show out, and obviously, you know, checking out season 2 when it ultimately comes around. And so that brings this month's watch list to an end. Like always, if there's something that's coming out that maybe I wasn't aware of, that you're aware of, that you think maybe me or someone else would be interested in, don't be afraid to leave it in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, all like to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good